In the deep woods of the Ozarks, where the hills roll into shadows and the cabins stand in silence, there lived a family whose name was whispered but never spoken too loudly. Their stories stretch back to the late 1800s, when a man and woman fled society to hide in the wilderness, escaping shame and seeking only the company of each other. They built a small log cabin on barren land and began a bloodline that would never leave those woods again. Generations passed, children were born, and the cabin walls saw no outsiders cross their threshold. The family grew inward, their blood looping in on itself, binding them together in ways that twisted not just their faces, but their fates. By the 1930s, the Ozark Cabin was a place locals avoided. Children in nearby towns whispered about strange figures roaming the hills at night, their steps heavy, their eyes lost to a world no one else could see. Hunters claimed they heard voices echoing through the valleys, broken words strung together as if language itself had been left behind. Yet the family endured, surviving on wild game, on roots and herbs, and on the bonds of kinship that had long ago crossed the line into something darker. Their features changed with time. Some were born with sunken eyes and crooked jaws, others with bodies too weak to carry them far. Still, they lived clinging to their isolation as though the outside world had been cursed. The family's patriarch in the 1940s was said to be a towering man with wild hair and a gaze that never met another's. His children rarely spoke, their words tangled in whispers, their laughter carrying through the trees like broken music. Strangers who wandered too close to the cabin described the air growing heavy, as if the land itself remembered every secret it had been forced to keep. Some men tried to document their lives, but few returned with more than fragments. The family refused photographs, refused questions, refused the notion that life could be lived differently. They had become one with their silence, one with the forest, one with a legacy that bound them tighter than any chain. By the 1960s, their presence had turned into legend. Campfires burned with stories of the Inbred clan hidden in the Ozarks, tales of pale children watching from the trees, of women wailing in the dead of night, of a family that time had abandoned. But it was no myth. Those who stumbled near the cabin saw clothes stitched from burlap, feet bare against the rocky soil, and eyes that darted with an animal's mistrust. They lived without the world, untouched by progress, their generations folding over each other until bloodlines blurred and memory itself became distorted. To them, the outside world was a threat, and the cabin was both cradle and coffin. The 1980s brought whispers of government men venturing into the hills, curious to study what had become of a family cut off from all others. They returned with stories too unsettling to print, speaking of children who could not speak clearly, of men whose faces carried the weight of centuries of isolation, of a family who did not understand why the world came searching for them. To the clan, the hills were enough. The woods fed them, the cabin sheltered them, and the blood of kin was all they had ever known. They did not see themselves as broken. They saw themselves as whole, as the last keepers of a life chosen long ago. But by the 1990s, the cabin began to rot, its wood sinking into the earth, its roof sagging under storms. Some say the family dwindled, their numbers thinning as the land grew harsher and their bodies grew weaker. Others claim they moved deeper into the mountains, building new shelters far from curious eyes. Yet the legend never faded. Locals swore they still heard footsteps in the forest, still felt eyes watching them when the sun went down, still believed that the family lingered, tied forever to the hills that had hidden them. The true story of the Ozark Cabin family is not written in books or carved in stone. It is carried in whispers, in warnings passed down through generations of townsfolk, in the uneasy silence of travelers who swear they saw figures moving in the trees. It is a legacy not of names or wealth, but of blood bound so tightly it could not escape itself. The cabin may one day fall to dust, its wood reclaimed by the earth, but the memory of the family remains, haunting the Ozarks like a shadow that cannot be chased away. This was their story, a tale of isolation, of survival, and of the terrifying price of never letting the outside world in. A family born of one choice, carried through time, and remembered forever as America's most inbred clan, the children of the Ozark Cabin.